Chapter 1. The Scent of Silver Pine. The small brass bell above the door jingled. Aurora flinched hard. A bundle of dried lavender slipped from her fingers. Tiny purple buds scattered across the wide, worn floorboards of her shop. "Just me, Aurora dear," a soft voice called out. Aurora let out a shaky breath. She pressed a hand over her heart, feeling it thump-thump-thump against her ribs. "Mrs. Gable. Good morning. You startled me." "Oh, fiddlesticks. You always look like a startled fawn child." The old woman smiled, her eyes crinkling. She leaned heavily on her oak cane. "I just need a refill of my arthritis cream. That last batch you made was pure magic." "Of course." Aurora turned back to her workbench. Her hands were shaking. Just a little. She hated it. This was her life now. Her safe life. She was Aurora, the quiet owner of the Willows Creek Apothecary. She sold teas for bad sleep and strong-smelling salves for old joints. She was human. She had to be human. Because if she wasn't human, she was nothing. She was a monster. She scooped the thick, pearly cream into a small glass jar. Her little shop was her sanctuary. It smelled of comfort. It smelled of chamomile and rosemary and... Her breath caught. Silver pine. A customer must have brought it in on their boots. The sharp, clean scent of the high mountains. The scent of home. The scent of him. No. She squeezed her eyes shut for a second. She would not think of him. Not today. This town was safe. It was deep in human lands. There were no packs here. No alphas. No mates. It was just quiet. It was just lonely. But the quiet wasn't quiet anymore. For the last few weeks, something felt wrong. It felt like a cold wind blowing inside her skin. It was her wolf. The pathetic, broken thing she had locked away 10 years ago. The wolf he had shattered. Now it was whispering. A phantom itch in her mind. Mate, mate, mate. It was a word that tasted like poison. A word that meant betrayal. "Here you are, Mrs. Gable," Aurora said, forcing her voice to sound light. "That will be $5. Mrs. Gable fumbled in her worn coin purse. "You're looking awfully peaky, dear. Are you eating right?" "You're just sticks and shadows." Aurora faked a smile. "Just tired. You know how it is. Well, you take care." The old woman's warm, dry hand briefly covered hers. The touch was kind. Humans. It made Aurora want to snatch her hand back. Because any touch felt like a lie. Because the only touch her body ever truly remembered was the one that ruined her. After the bell jingled Mrs. Gable's exit, Aurora locked the door. She flipped the wooden sign to closed. The afternoon sun was turning watery and weak, making the dust motes in the air glow. It was almost peaceful. But she felt hollow. Tomorrow. Tomorrow was her 30th birthday. A day that was supposed to mean everything. In her old life, the life before 30 was the age. The age when a true mate bond settled, became permanent. She would have been Luna. A bitter laugh escaped her. It sounded ugly in the quiet shop. Her Luna? She was just Aurora. The broken girl who sold herbs. She swept up the lavender buds, her back aching. She was washing the counter, her hands deep in hot, soapy water. When she heard it, woo-woo. Aurora froze. Water dripped from her numb fingers. Drip, drip, drip. It was a dog. A big dog. A stray. That's all. Whoa. This time, it was closer. And it was not a dog. This howl was deep. It was powerful. It vibrated in her bones. It rattled the glass jars on her shelves. That was an alpha's howl. Here? No, it couldn't be. Her blood ran cold. Her skin prickled. The howl was lonely. It was filled with pain. And it sounded like him. No, she whispered to the shadows gathering in the corners. He was gone. He was the Alpha King 1,000 miles away. He had his lands. His pack. He left her. He left her 10 years ago. He wouldn't be here. Why would he be here? The howl came again. This time, it felt like it was right outside her front door. And the broken, silent, sleeping thing inside her. Her wolf. It whimpered. Just once. A tiny, painful sound. And it whispered a name. Kale. Chapter 2. The Claw on the Door. She did not sleep. How could she? Every creak of the old building, every gust of wind she thought was him. She told herself over and over it was the wind. It was a stray. But she knew. Because she was a shifter, even a broken one, she knew that sound. That was the sound of an alpha. And there was only one alpha in the world whose voice could pull at her soul even after a decade. The sun finally came up. The birds started chirping. The world just kept going. Like her whole life hadn't just been set on fire. She splashed cold water on her face from the basin. She looked awful. Dark purple shadows bruised the skin under her eyes. Her face was pale. "Happy birthday," she whispered to the reflection. 30. A whole decade. 10 years since she ran. 10 years since that night. The night he chose her. The night he... She shook her head, hard. No. She would make tea. She would open her shop. She would pretend. She would pretend she was human. She would pretend she didn't hear a howl. She would pretend her heart wasn't trying to claw its way out of her chest. She walked down the creaky stairs from her small apartment above the shop. The shop was cold. She went to the front door. Time to flip the closed sign to open. Time to start the day. Her hand was on the doorknob. When she saw it, stuck to the wood. A note. No, not just a note. It was a piece of thick, expensive paper. Cream-colored. And it was pinned to the door. With a claw. A single black wolf's claw. Sharp. Curved. Deadly. Shifter. Aurora's breath left her lungs in a whoosh. She couldn't breathe. This was a message. He was here. Or a new, colder fear. Who was here? Because she had run from Kale, she had broken the bond, she had left Packlands. Rogues. Hunters. The council. So many people and so many wolves could be looking for her. She had to go. She had to run. Again. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely pull the claw from the wood. It was stuck deep. The note fell. She fumbled, catching it. She unfolded it. The handwriting was strong. Bold. Black ink. It was just 5 words. We need to meet. Tonight. That was it. No name. No place. No time. Just tonight. We, she whispered. Who is we? Her mind was spinning. Is this from him? From Kale? Or is it a trap? She looked around her little shop. The herbs. The jars. The simple, quiet life she had built. It was all a lie. And the lie was over. She crumpled the note in her fist. She threw it on the floor. She wouldn't go. She would pack her bag. She would be gone before the sunset. She bent down and picked up the note. She smoothed it out. We need to meet. Tonight. A tiny part of her. The stupid wolf part. I was curious. 10 years. 10 years of hiding. 10 years of being nothing. And now this. A note. A claw. A howl in the night. Her 30th birthday. What if she didn't run? What would happen if she just stayed? She looked at the claw in her hand. It was from a wolf. A big one. And she knew she couldn't run. Not this time. Because she was so tired of running. Chapter 3. The Pull of the Dream. The day was a nightmare. After that note, how could she work? Every time the bell on the door jingled, Aurora jumped so high she almost knocked over a display of soap. Mrs. Gable came back for her forgotten purse. Mr. Henderson came in for his tea. And she smiled. A tight, fake smile that made her cheeks hurt. She kept looking at the door. Waiting. For what? For him to walk in? Or for something worse? The note was in her pocket. She could feel it. It felt heavy. Like a stone. Tonight. But where? When? How? This was a test. Or a trap. He was playing a game. Kale always loved games. He loved to win. The sun started to set. The shop grew dark. Aurora didn't turn on the lights. She just sat. On her small stool. Behind the counter. She should pack. She should leave. She should lock the door and run as fast as she could. Because this was stupid. Because this was dangerous. This life, this quiet, safe life was everything she wanted. Wasn't it? Wasn't it? She was so lonely. For 10 years. So cold. Her wolf, the broken thing inside it, wasn't just whispering. It felt pulled. Like a string. A string tied tight around her heart. And someone somewhere was tugging. Gently. Pulling her. Come. Come. Mate. No. She stood up. The stool scraped loudly on the floor. I am not your mate. Not anymore, she yelled at the empty, dark shop. She ran upstairs. To her apartment. She locked the door. She shoved her heavy armchair under the doorknob. She wouldn't go. She would not. She didn't care who it was. Kale. The council. Rogues. She was done. She fell onto her bed. She didn't change her clothes. She just lay there, staring at the ceiling. The exhaustion was heavy, like a wet wool blanket. Her eyelids so heavy. She would just rest. Just for a minute. Her eyes closed. She dreams. She's not in her cold, empty apartment. She's in the woods. The silver pine forest. Home. The air smells amazing. Pine. Rain. And him. Kale. He's here. In the dream. She sees him. 10 years younger. His black hair. His strong jaw. And his eyes. His golden eyes. He smiles. The smile was the one that broke her heart. Aurora, he whispers in the dream. His voice, it's like warm honey. He holds out his hand. Mine. She wants to take it. In the dream she can. In the dream he wasn't cruel. In the dream he didn't. The dream. It starts to change. The golden eyes, they turn cold. Hard. The forest, it's not the forest. The smell, it's stronger. Pine. Rain. Kale. It's so real. Aurora deep in sleep. Her face in her pillow. She breathes in. And her wolf, her poor, broken, sleeping wolf. It purrs. It recognizes the scent. Kale. And she sinks deeper, deeper into the dream. Unaware that the dream is not a dream at all. Chapter 4. The Hunter's Cabin. The first thing that hit her was the smell. It was not the soft lavender and chamomile of her apothecary. This was a sharp, wild scent. Silver pine, old leather, and a warm, musky, male scent that wrapped around her and made her skin tingle. The second thing was the silence. Not the familiar creaks of her small apartment, but a deep, heavy quiet, like the world was holding its breath. The third was the bed. It was not her lumpy, narrow mattress. This was vast. The sheets were not thin cotton. They were thick, heavy linen, and they were warm with a heat that was not her own. Aurora's eyes flew open. This was not her room. The ceiling was made of thick, dark logs. Across the room, a huge stone fireplace stood cold and dark. Furs were draped over heavy wooden chairs. And she was naked. No. The word was a choked gasp. She sat up, pulling the heavy sheet with her, clutching it to her chest. Her heart began to hammer, a drumbeat of pure, cold panic. The dream. The note. The claw. It was real. Her simple wool dress was folded neatly on a chair. He had undressed her. You're awake. The voice came from the shadows by the door. Aurora screamed, a small, thin sound. A man stepped into the dim light. Her breath stopped. Her world tilted. Kale. But it was not Kale. Not the boy she had loved, the one with the easy smile and the bright, hopeful eyes. That boy was gone. This was a man. He was taller than she remembered, and his shoulders were impossibly broad. He wore only a pair of simple black pants, his feet bare on the cold stone floor. His chest was a roadmap of scars, some white and old, others pink and new. His black hair was longer, wild, brushing his collar. And his face was hard. It looked like it was carved from granite. All the laughter was gone, replaced by a deep, cold stillness. This was the Alpha King. What did you do? Aurora whispered, her voice shaking. She pulled the sheet tighter. Where am I? You kidnapped me. His golden eyes, the color of autumn, watched her. They were empty. I brought you here. To the cabin. My shop is 1,000 miles away, he said. 1,000 no. He was lying. He had to be. Kale started. Then he physically flinched. His entire body tensed. A low, menacing rumble vibrated in his chest. His eyes, they flashed. The autumn gold burned away, replaced by a bright, molten wolf gold. He took one step closer. And his wolf spoke, using Kale's mouth. The voice was deeper, rougher, and full of a hunger that terrified her. Mate. No. Aurora scrambled backward, hitting her head hard on the thick wooden headboard. No. I am not. You chose her. 10 years ago. You broke it. You broke it. The bond is not broken. Kale, the man, was fighting. She could see it. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. My wolf, he never let you go. He's a monster. And so are you. Let me go. Bang, bang, bang. The sound was so loud it shook the cabin. Someone was pounding on the thick oak door with a heavy fist. Alpha Kale, a man's voice roared from outside. We know you have her. The council demands you open this door. Kale turned. The look on his face, it was not fear. It was pure, unfiltered rage. The council, he whispered. The door did not open. It exploded inward. The lock shattered, and the heavy door flew open. 3 men in the dark robes of the Council of Elders stormed in. They stopped. They stared. They stared at Kale, half-naked and furious. And they stared at Aurora, naked in his bed. The oldest one, a man with a long gray beard, pointed a trembling, angry finger at her. There, he shrieked, his voice cracking with righteous fury. The bondbreaker. The harlot. We find her just where we knew she would be. In the Alpha's bed. Chapter 5. The Partial Claim. Harlot. The word echoed in the cabin, sharp and cruel. It hit Aurora harder than a slap. She saw the look on their faces. Elder Marcus, the one who had shouted, and the other 2. Their faces were twisted with a decade of judgment, of hate. 10 years, Elder Marcus sneered, his voice dripping with venom. 10 years she hides, living like a human, shaming her blood. And we find her in the Alpha King's bed. Like a common enough. Kale's voice was not a shout. It was a low, dangerous rumble. The very air in the cabin turned heavy, pressing down on Aurora's shoulders. It was hard to breathe. This was Alpha Command. She is a criminal, my king. Elder Marcus argued, but his voice shook. He was afraid. She broke the sacred bond. She fled. She is mine. No. Aurora cried, her voice desperate. I am not. Kale, tell them. Tell them the truth. Tell them. She looked at Kale. He was not looking at the elders. He was looking at her. And his eyes, they were not his. They were pure, burning, wolf gold. The man was gone. This was the Alpha. You, Elder Marcus said, taking a brave, foolish step toward the bed. You will come with us, girl. You will face judgment for she. Will. Not. Kale growled. He moved. He was so fast. 1 second, he was by the fireplace. The next, he was standing between the bed and the elders. He was protecting her. My king, Elder Marcus stuttered, his face pale. She is. Mate. The wolf said the word. The elders, they froze. But my king, Marcus, was pale. The bond, it was Seraphina, it is not broken. Kale, his whole body was shaking. He was fighting so hard. Kale, Aurora whispered. She was so scared. Kale, please. Stop. He turned his head. He looked at her. His golden eyes, they were full of hunger. He can't hear you, Elder Marcus whispered, his voice full of a new fear. The wolf, it is Aurora, Kale groaned. His own voice. Kale, she cried, hope surging. He looked in so much pain. Run, he whispered. What? Run. Now. Get out. He was telling her to run? He was trying to seize her. Elder Marcus roared, seeing his chance. The other 2 elders did not go for Kale. They lunged at her. They grabbed her arms. No. Get off me. Stop. Kale roared. The elders were strong. They pulled her and dragged her from the bed. She was naked. Exposed. Let her go. Kale's roar was not human. It was an alpha. The cabin shook. The elders fell back. And Kale, he grabbed her. He pulled her against his hard, bare chest. His head, he bit her. His teeth were sharp and they sank deep. Into her neck. Into the old, faded mark. Aurora screamed. The pain was fire. It was wrong. It was not a full mark. It was not a mark of love. It was bleeding. She could feel it. A partial mark. K-N-O-L-L-Kale, his wolf had claimed her. In a rage. In front of she looked. The elders were horrified. Kale pulled his head back. His mouth and lips were covered in her blood. She is mine, he growled. And Aurora, she felt the bond. The pull. She couldn't leave. Because if she left she would die. He had chained her. Chapter 6. The Gilded Cage. The silence in the room was absolute, thick, and terrifying. The three elders just stared. Their eyes were fixed on Aurora's neck, on the bright beads of blood welling up around the new, raw mark Kale's wolf had torn into her skin. Elder Marcus, the man who had called her a harlot, was white with shock. He bowed. "My king," he whispered, his voice trembling. "It is done." Kale was breathing hard, great, heaving gasps, as if he had run 100 miles. His golden, feral eyes blinked. Once. Twice. The burning, molten light faded. His eyes were his again. Kale's eyes, human and filled with a sudden, dawning confusion. He looked at his hand, still on her arm. He looked at her. He saw the terror in her eyes. He saw the blood on her skin. He released her as if she were fire. Aurora collapsed, falling to the cold stone floor. She scrambled backward, dragging the heavy linen sheet with her, pulling it around her shaking body. She was so cold. What Kale whispered. He looked at his own lips, feeling the wetness. He looked at his hand, then back to her neck. "What did I do?" "You claimed her, my king," Elder Marcus said, his voice quiet. Kale's voice was hoarse. "It is a partial mark," the elder continued, his voice gaining a shaky, awful reverence. "Unstable. But it is a mark." "The goddess has get out," Kale whispered. "My king, the law is clear. The bond is get out." Kale's roar was not the wolf's. It was the man's. It was a sound of so much pain, so much self-hatred, that Aurora flinched. The elders did not wait for a third command. They turned and fled, scrambling out of the broken doorway. They were gone. The wind howled, whistling through the empty doorway, sending a chill gust into the room. Kale did not look at her. He turned, walking stiffly to the stone wall by the fireplace. And he slammed his fist into the solid rock. A sharp crack echoed in the room. Not his hand. The stone. "Kale," Aurora whispered. She was afraid. So afraid. He turned, his hand bleeding, his chest heaving. He looked at her, and his face it was broken. Utterly. "Aurora," he breathed. "You bit me," she whispered, her hand rising to her neck, wincing as her fingers brushed the raw wound. "Aye," he shook his head, lost. My wolf, I didn't, you're a monster," she said, the words flat dead. "I know," he choked out. They were taking you." "I had to, you had to what?" she cried. "Maim me? Brand me?" Now she felt it. A cold, sick pull in her stomach. A connection. "What is this?" It hurts." "I know," he said, his voice ragged. "I'm leaving," she said, trying to get her feet under her, to stand. "You can't." "What?" "You can't leave," he said, his voice flat. "You can't run. Not now. Watch me." "No," he shouted, taking a step toward her. "Listen to me. Because of what my wolf did, because it's a partial mark, it's not stable. It's wrong." "What does that mean, Kale?" He looked at her, his eyes filled with a new kind of horror. "It means if you get too far from me." "What?" she demanded. "You'll die," he whispered. Aurora's blood ran cold. "You're lying." "No." He shook his head. "And I'll die." She stared at him. He was not lying. She could feel the truth of it, a cold, metallic chain linking her to him. "What?" "Both of us." "Yes," he said. "The bond, it's tied to both of us. It's a chain. It will kill us both if we are separated." "No," she whispered. "No. You have to stay," he said. I can't hear," he said, his voice hard. "With me." He saw the terror and the hate in her eyes. I won't touch you," he promised, his voice raw. "I swear it, Aurora." I will not. You hate me, he whispered, as if realizing it himself. Yes, she said, and her voice was a shard of ice. I know, he said, looking away at the broken door, at the mess he had made. I will find a way. A way to break this. To free you. Good, she whispered, trembling. But, he said, his voice devoid of all emotion. But until then, he met her eyes. You are my prisoner. Chapter 7. The Silent Table. For 2 days, Aurora was a ghost in a cabin that smelled of him. Cale had repaired the broken door himself. She had watched from the window as he replaced the hinges and sanded the splintered wood, his movements economical and powerful. He was a king, yet he worked with the hands of a carpenter. He was her kidnapper, yet he had not come near her. He had given her the bed. He slept on the pile of furs by the fireplace, a strategic, non-negotiable distance between them. He was a wall of silent, coiled tension. He had left clothes for her on a stool, a simple, dark tunic and leggings. They were new, and she was grateful they were not his. On the 3rd morning, the silence was broken. You need to eat. His voice startled her. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, her hair a tangled mess. He was at the rough-hewn table, which was set for 2. He had prepared food. Stew. Bread. The gesture was so normal it was insulting. I'm not hungry, she said. You are, he stated, not unkindly. I can feel it. He was right. The partial bond was a curse. It was a two-way line. She felt his a low thrum of guilt and a simmering, restless power. And he, apparently, could feel her hunger. She stood, her legs stiff. She sat at the table, as far from him as she could get. The silence was deafening. There was only the sound of his spoon against the wooden bowl. He ate like a soldier, fast and efficient, his eyes on his food. She, on the other hand, just pushed the stew around. Why am I here, Cale? She finally asked, her voice quiet. He paused, his spoon halfway to his mouth. You know why? Because your wolf decided to brand me? That's not a reason. That's an excuse. It is a chain, he said, his voice low. It holds me just as it holds you. If you leave, we both die. Until I can find an elder who knows how to break this, we are bound. So I'm your prisoner. You are under my protection. It feels the same, she snapped. He looked up then, and his golden eyes met hers. Does it? She had no answer for that. She reached for the pitcher of water at the same time he did. His large, scarred hand brushed against her knuckles. A jolt. It was not a shock. It was not painful. It was hot. It was a spark that leaped from his skin to hers and shot up her arm. She snatched her hand back as if she'd been burned. He pulled his back, his jaw tight. They stared at each other. His wolf could feel it. It was just under his skin, watching her. But it wasn't the raging, feral beast from the other day. It was curious. And her own wolf, the broken, pathetic thing she had suppressed for a decade, it stirred. It uncurled. It felt the power in him, and it was not afraid. It was interesting. The realization made her feel sick. Cale stood abruptly. The legs of his chair scraped loudly on the floor. Eat, he commanded, but his voice was strained. He turned and walked out of the cabin, leaving her alone with 2 bowls of stew and a feeling of profound, terrifying confusion. Chapter 8. The Healer's Touch. For 3 days, this was their pattern. He would patrol the woods, and she would feel the bond stretch. It was a cold, aching, physical pull in her chest, like a rope tied to her soul. It was a constant, agonizing reminder that he was right, she could not leave. The pain would only subside when he returned, his presence a relief that she hated. He was chopping wood. She was sitting on the cabin's porch, her knees drawn to her chest, watching. He was a king. He could have 100 servants. Yet here he was, swinging an axe, the muscles in his back and shoulders rippling with a power that was both beautiful and terrifying. He was not the monster she remembered. The monster she remembered was a laughing boy who had broken her heart. This man was something else. Something harder and sadder. The howl cut through the silence. It was not Cale. It was high, thin, and desperate. It was a rogue. Cale did not hesitate. He dropped the axe and shifted. It was not a choice. It was an explosion. Where the man had been, there was now a beast. A massive black wolf, larger than a pony, its golden eyes blazing. Before Aurora could even scream, more wolves burst from the trees. They were thin, their fur matted, their eyes wild with hunger and madness. They smelled the alpha. They wanted his territory. Kale met them. It was not a fight, it was a storm. He was a black blur of claws and fury. He killed 2 in seconds, their yelps cut short. The third, a scarred gray, leaped. It was smart. It dodged Kale's lunge and its claws raked Kale's side. Kale roared, a sound that shook the trees, and snapped the rogue's neck. He turned, and the last rogue, it wasn't attacking him. It was running for her. It was on the porch. Aurora screamed. She grabbed the only thing she could, the heavy iron poker from the fireplace. The rogue lunged. A black shape intercepted it. Kale in his wolf form slammed into the rogue, throwing it back. He pinned it, and it was over. Silence. Kale the wolf stood panting. He turned to her. He was bleeding. The gash on his side was deep. Dark blood matted his black fur. He slumped. He shifted back, groaning. He fell to his knees, clutching his side. Kale. She was at his side before she knew what she was doing. Stay back, he gasped, his human face pale, slick with sweat. You're bleeding. He grimaced, it's fine. You're an idiot, she whispered. This was her chance. She could walk away. She could let him bleed. Maybe he would die. And she knew. His pain was her pain. She felt a sharp, stabbing ache in her own side, an echo of his wound. You have to, she said, her voice shaking. I know, he hissed. No. You have to let me. He looked at her, confused. She put her hands on the wound. What are you? Shut up. Aurora closed her eyes. She pushed aside the fear. She pushed aside the hate. She reached for the power she had buried 10 years ago. The power that was not just herbs and tinctures. A soft, silver light bloomed from her hands. Kale gasped. It was not hot. It was cool. Like moonlight. She felt the skin, the muscle knitting together under her palms. She felt the flow of blood slow and then stop. She pulled back, exhausted. He stared at her. His hand covered the spot where the wound had been. It was gone. You, he whispered. His voice was full of awe. You're a healer. A sound. A snap of a twig. Kale was on his feet. The fifth rogue. It hadn't been in the fight. It had been waiting. It leaped from the shadows, aiming for her. Kale moved. No pain. No hesitation. He didn't shift. He caught the wolf in midair. He broke it. He stood over the body, his chest heaving. He turned. His eyes, they were gold. But it was not the wolf. It was the king. A low, possessive growl rumbled in his chest. Mine, he growled. He wasn't speaking to her. He was speaking to the world. Chapter 9. The Watcher in the Rain. The tension after the rogue attack was worse. Before, it was a silence built on hatred and guilt. Now it was a silence built on awareness. He was not just her jailer, he was her protector. She was not just his prisoner, she was his healer. This changed the rules. They were hyper-aware of each other. She would be reading by the fire, and she would feel his eyes on her. She would look up, and he would be staring, his expression unreadable, before looking away. He was studying her. Like she was a puzzle he had just opened, only to find the pieces were all wrong. He confused her. The monster she remembered would have been cruel. He would have been he was respectful. He kept his distance. He gave her the first portion of food. He never, ever, came near the bed until she was asleep. And that was worse than any cruelty. His guilt was a shield. His respect was a cage. One night, she could not sleep. The partial bond was an itch. A low, restless thrum. He was restless, too. She could feel him, on the furs, just staring at the ceiling. A hard rain began to fall, pounding on the roof. The cabin was too small. She felt like she was suffocating. She stood, pulling a fur blanket around her thin tunic. Kale's eyes snapped open. What is it? I need air. She opened the cabin door and stepped onto the small, covered porch. The air was clean. It smelled like pine and wet earth. It washed away the smell of him. She stepped off the porch. Into the rain. It was cold. It soaked her hair, her tunic, in seconds. She tipped her head back. And she smiled. Just a small, sad, broken smile. It was the first real thing she had felt in 10 years. A moment of freedom. She turned. He was there. In the doorway. A huge, dark silhouette against the light of the fire. He was just watching her. She should have been afraid. He was an alpha. She was a lone female, soaked to the bone, in the middle of the night. She was not afraid. And her wolf, the quiet, broken thing, it purred. A tiny, traitorous rumble in her chest. Healer, it whispered in her mind. Ours. Strong. No, she whispered to herself, the rain masking the sound. Kale took a step onto the porch. He did not come out into the rain. You're a healer, he said. His voice was rough, carrying over the sound of the storm. A true one. Your power, it's silver. I've only read about that. I'm nothing, she said, her voice cold. You're not, he said. You're not what I remembered. She looked at him. At this hard, scarred, broken man who was her jailer and her protector. That's funny, she said, her voice as cold as the rain. She walked past him back into the cabin. You're exactly what I remembered. She was lying. He was he wasn't. And they both knew it. The bond it flared. Hot. And confused. Chapter 10. The Fading Fiancé. The fragile piece, if it could even be called that, shattered the next morning. The cabin, which had started to feel like a strange, tense sanctuary, once again felt like a cage. Kale was restless. He paced from the cold fireplace to the repaired door, his energy a storm cloud filling the small space. Where are you going? Aurora asked, her voice sharper than she intended. The partial bond was a curse in so many ways. She did not want to care about his movements, yet his agitation scraped against her nerves like a dull knife. He stopped, his back to her. He was pulling on a dark, heavy tunic. I have business. In the valley. The valley. He had said the word before. The council is in the valley, she asked. No. His voice was flat. A cold realization, sharp and unwelcome, settled in her stomach. He was not going to see an elder. He was not going to a meeting. It's her, isn't it? The words were out before she could stop them, tasting like acid. Kale turned slowly. His face was a mask of stone, but his eyes were full of a pain she recognized. It was the same trapped, hopeless look he'd had in the moments after his wolf claimed her. Yes, he said. Aurora's breath left her. You have a fiancé. It was not a question. It was a condemnation. Her name is Celine, he said, as if that mattered. So, Aurora said, standing, her hands clenched. Let me see if I understand. You kidnapped me. You bit me. You chained me to you and you have a fiancé? She laughed, a short, ugly, broken sound. You truly are a monster, Kale. 10 years, and all you've learned is how to be more cruel. You don't understand, he growled. Oh, I understand, she shouted, finally moving toward him, jabbing a finger at his chest. I understand that you ruin everything you touch. You ruined me, and now you're cheating on this poor, stupid girl who is waiting for you in the valley. She is sick, Aurora, he roared, his voice finally cracking, the alpha command in it forcing her back a step. And what does that have to do with me? Everything, he yelled. He raked his hands through his hair, his control shattering. It has everything to do with you. She is not like us. She was human-born. An omega. Gentle. Get to the point, Kale. He met her eyes, and his were filled with a terrible, bleak honesty. Her sickness, it began the moment you came back. The moment I brought you to this cabin. Because for 10 years Celine, she has been the vessel. Aurora stared, confused. Vessel? For what? Kale took a step closer, his voice dropping to a low, raw whisper. For your wolf. Aurora's world stopped. No, she whispered. That's not possible. When you ran, he explained, his voice urgent, when you broke the bond of your wolf it was shattered. It was dying. It couldn't survive on its own. It found a host. A gentle, empty, willing spirit. It found Celine. She has kept it safe. For 10 years. He wasn't lying. She could feel the truth of it, a strange, horrifying resonance in her own chest. Her wolf. And now, Aurora said, the pieces clicking into place, each one colder than the last. Now I'm here. And the wolf wants to come back to me. Cale nodded, his face grim. Oh, goddess, Aurora whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. It's killing her. Isn't it? The transfer. It's killing this innocent woman. Yes, Cale said, his voice broken. And I don't know what to do. Chapter 11. The Name of the Betrayer. Aurora reeled, stumbling back until she hit the table. Guilt. It was a cold, sick feeling. She was killing an innocent woman, just by existing. This, she whispered, her mind racing, this is your fault. All of it. Cale looked up, his eyes flashing. My fault. Yes, she said, her voice rising with a decade of buried pain. If you hadn't rejected me 10 years ago, none of it would have happened. What? He said, his voice dangerously low. What did you say? You heard me. You broke me. You chose her. I never rejected you, Aurora. Liar, she screamed. You liar. I saw you. That night. The night of the full moon. You were with her. Serafina. You told me, her voice broke. Cale crossed the space between them in 2 strides. He did not touch her, but he stood over her, his shadow covering her. What? He demanded. What did I tell you? She was shaking, the memory as fresh as it was 10 years ago. You told me I was weak. That I wasn't worthy of you. That my healing gift was a parlor trick. You said Serafina is a true wolf. You are nothing. Cale stared. He was not angry. He looked confused. He said, I never spoke to you that night, Aurora. You did. You know, he roared. I was looking for you. I had the ring. The mating ring. I was going to, he stopped. They both stared at each other. They were both telling the truth. Aurora said, I don't understand. I saw you. You know, Cale said, his mind clearly working, going back. That night. I was late. I was held up. Held up. There was an attack, he said. On the southern border. My beta, Cale's voice had died. He what? Aurora whispered. My beta Lauren, Cale said, his voice hollow. Lauren, he came to me. He said rogues were attacking the farms. He took me for hours. Lauren, Aurora repeated. The name was familiar. Cale's is his best friend. And, Cale continued, when we got back Lauren, he was the one who told me you had run. He said you had rejected me, Cale whispered, the 10-year-old pain fresh in his voice. He said you ran off with a human. And Aurora, her legs they gave out. She sat hard on the stool. I was waiting. In the woods. By the moon pool. Where we were supposed to meet. I know, he whispered. And you never came. And Lauren, he came, she whispered. Cale's face it turned to stone. Lauren, he said. He came, Aurora, she was. He said he was so sorry. He said you had made your choice. He said Cale has chosen Serafina. He says you are weak. She looked at Cale. The whole 10 years. The pain. The running. The broken bond. Aurora whispered. He lied. To both of us, Cale said. His voice it was shaking with rage. Pure alpha rage. He's still your beta, she whispered. Yes, Cale said. And he's in the valley, Cale said, his voice flat. With Celine. Aurora, she stood up. I'm coming with you. She had to. She had to see him. Chapter 12. The Fading Vessel. The journey from the cabin was not one of a master and his prisoner. It had transformed. They were 2 allies, bound by a decade of shared grief and a new, burning, shared rage. The partial bond between them had shifted. It was no longer a cold, aching chain. It was a hot wire, thrumming with Cale's focused, murderous fury, and her own. The valley was not a grand pack hall, but a small, hidden settlement, nestled between 2 steep, pine-covered ridges. It was a safe house. A hospital. Cale led them, not to the main lodge, but to a small, isolated cottage at the edge of the clearing. Lauren was standing on the porch. He was handsome, in a cold, sharp way, with blonde hair and pale blue eyes. He saw Cale. And then he saw Aurora. His face did not show fear. It did not show surprise. It showed pity. "My king," Lauren said, his voice smooth as honey. "You found her." The harlot. Cale did not even look at him. He walked straight past him, his entire focus on the cottage door. "Where is Celine?" "She is weak, my lord," Lauren said, moving to physically block Cale from the door. "The healer says that seeing her," he glanced at Aurora, his eyes full of disdain, "is unwise. It could cause a shock." Cale did not touch him. He did not push him. He simply pushed. "Move," Cale commanded. It was not a request. It was an alpha command, pure and absolute. The power hit Lauren like a physical blow. Lauren stumbled backward, his smooth composure shattering. His face was a mask of shock. He had not expected that. Cale opened the door. The room was dark. The air was thick and still, and it smelled wrong. It smelled of sickness, of decay. And it smelled like her. Not Aurora. Her wolf. Celine was on the bed. She was a young woman, terribly pale, with dark, lank hair spread across the pillow. Her breathing was so shallow, her chest barely moved. She was dying. Aurora walked toward the bed, as if pulled by an invisible string. She felt it. Her wolf. Her power. It was in this girl. At that moment, Celine's eyes fluttered open. She did not look at Cale, who stood in the doorway like a mountain of stone. She looked at Aurora. "You," Celine whispered, her voice a dry rustle. She smiled, a faint, heartbreaking expression. "You're warm," she breathed. It's so cold." As Aurora got closer, Celine gasped. A faint silver light, like a wisp of smoke, left Celine's chest. It flickered and moved toward Aurora. Aurora felt a jolt. Power. Her wolf. It was coming home. But as the silver light moved, Celine began to fade. Her breathing hitched, turning into a desperate, shallow pant. "No," Cale said, his voice raw. "Stop." He was torn. He was watching his fiancée die. The wolf was returning to Aurora. But it was killing Celine. The transfer was not clean. It was ripping the life from the vessel. Lauren was standing in the doorway again. He was smiling. "A terrible choice, my king," he said, his voice no longer smooth, but sharp and triumphant. "The healer," he nodded at Aurora, "or the vessel." Cale turned, his eyes blazing with a golden, murderous light. "You did this." Lauren's smile dropped. "The pack needs a strong alpha, Cale. Not a broken one, pining for a ghost." He howled. And from the woods more howls answered. Rogues. Dozens of them. Lauren's rogues. They surrounded the cottage. It was a trap. Chapter 13. The Two-Front War. Lauren's trap was perfect. It was a cold, brilliant piece of strategy, and as the howls of his rogues surrounded the cottage, Aurora felt the last bit of her hope curdle. Cale was a storm trapped in a bottle. He was pacing the small room, his hands clenched, his eyes a burning gold. "He planned this," he growled. "He planned all of it." "My king." Lauren's voice called from outside, smooth and confident. "A terrible choice, isn't it? Stay in there and watch your fiancé die, or come out here and die with your harlot." Cale slammed his fist against the cottage wall. "He's been working with rogues. All this time. He let the rogues attack the southern border 10 years ago. It was a diversion. To get me out of the way. To break us. And he did," Aurora whispered. She looked at the bed. Celine was gasping, her skin a pale, waxy gray. The silver light, Aurora's wolf, was flickering over her, a parasitic aura that was killing its host. "It burns," Celine whispered, a tear rolling down her cheek. Lauren's trap was, Aurora realized, even more perfect than he knew. He thought the choice was between Celine and Aurora. But he was wrong. Cale was watching his fiancée die, and he was chained by the bond to a woman who was killing her. His guilt was so profound, so heavy, that it was paralyzing him. "He's wrong," Aurora said, her voice cutting through the tension. Cale looked at her. "What?" He thinks I'm the choice. He thinks this is just about the wolf." She walked to the bed. Cale moved to stop her. "What are you doing?" "The transfer, it's killing her." Your power, my wolf is killing her, Aurora corrected him, her voice suddenly, shockingly, calm. She is too weak to be a vessel. The transfer is tearing her apart. She looked at Kale, and for the first time, he saw not a victim, but a partner. He thinks my wolf is my only power. He forgot he never knew that I am a healer. This was her point of no return. She was not the broken girl who sold herbs. She was not the harlot in the Alpha's bed. She was Aurora. She placed her hands on Celine's forehead. Aurora, no. Kale yelled, lunging forward. You'll kill her faster. I'm not going to stop the transfer, Aurora said, her eyes closed. She pushed her own power, the cool, silver light of her healing, into the dying girl. I am going to save the vessel. Celine gasped, but this time, it was a breath of relief. The burning, it's cool, Kale stopped, his mouth open in awe. He was watching two forces at war. The raw, parasitic power of the wolf leaving Celine and the gentle, powerful, silver light of Aurora healing her at the same time. Outside, Lauren must have felt the shift in power. The howls turned from taunting to furious. What is this magic? Lauren roared, his voice no longer smooth. No. Attack. Kill them all. Kill the healer first. Chapter 14. The Alpha and the Light. The windows exploded. Glass and wood fragments sprayed into the room. 3, 4, 5 rogues they poured into the tiny cottage. Kale did not hesitate. He did not shout. He did not plan. He became. 1 second, he was a man. The next, he was the Alpha. A massive black wolf, a shadow of fangs and death, met the first rogue in midair, his jaws clamping on its throat. The room descended into chaos. It was a blur of black fur, gray fur, and the sound of snapping bone. Kale was magnificent. He was a force of nature, a true king. Defending his Aurora did not move from the bed. She could not. Her hands were pressed to Celine's chest, her body a conduit for the healing light. Celine was her patient. The fight was Kale's. But the fight was uneven. There are too many. Kale roared, his voice a half-human, half-wolf snarl, as he threw one rogue into the fireplace. Lauren wants the healer, another rogue shrieked, his eyes landing on Aurora. He broke past Kale's defense. He leaped not at Kale, but at her. At the bed. Kale roared, but he was too far, tangled with another rogue. Aurora did not have time to think. She did not have time to be a victim. She ripped one hand from Celine's chest and shoved it toward the attacking wolf. No, she screamed. A wave of pure, silver, healing light of force slammed into the rogue. It was not fangs. It was not claws. It was pressure. It was like being hit by a wall of pure energy. The rogue yelped, flying backward, and slammed into the wall. He fell, stunned and confused. Everyone froze. The rogues. Kale. Aurora stared at her own hand, shaking. The fight resumed. But it was different. Kale was fighting with a new fury. A new hope. Another rogue tried to flank him, to attack him from behind. Kale. Aurora screamed. She pushed her power again. The blast of light hit the rogue's legs, knocking him off balance, giving Kale the second he needed to turn and end it. This was their forbidden kiss. It was not of lips. It was of power. They were a unit. He, the Alpha of fangs and destruction. She, the Alpha of light and preservation. They were, for the first time, a pack. Kale, his fur matted with his own blood and the blood of his enemies, stood back to back with her. He was a wall of black fur, guarding her. And she was a beacon of silver light, guarding him. The remaining rogues were terrified. This was not a broken Alpha. And this was not a harlot. She's a witch, one screamed, just before Kale silenced him for good. Chapter 15. The Unbreakable Bond. The last rogue was dead. The cottage was a ruin. Blood glass and the smell of ozone, from Aurora's power. Kale shifted. He was human. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, panting, covered in filth, but he was alive. He looked at Aurora. The rage was gone. The guilt was quiet. He was just staring at her. A soft sigh. It came from the bed. They both turned. Celine. Her eyes were open. She was smiling. She was no longer gray. Her skin was peaceful. It's beautiful, she whispered, her eyes on Aurora. The last, tiny wisp of silver light, the last bit of Aurora's wolf left Celine's chest. It was not parasitic. It was gentle. It flew across the room, a spark, and sank into Aurora's chest. Celine, she sighed. And her eyes closed. She was at peace. The vessel was empty. For 1 second there was silence. Then Aurora screamed. She collapsed, clutching her neck. The partial mark is burned. Kale roared, clutching his own chest. The bond. The full Alpha Luna bond. It was slamming into place. It was not a gentle connection. It was a flood. It was 10 years of lost time, of lost power, of shared agony flooding them both at once. It was agony. It was ecstasy. Aurora felt everything. Chapter 16. The Silver-Tipped Betrayal. The cottage was a grave. It was a tomb for Celine, for the rogues, and for the 10 years of lies that had festered between them. Kale and Aurora stepped out of the ruined doorway, their hands still joined. The air was cold, the clearing silent. The surviving rogues had vanished back into the woods, called off by their master. "He's not gone," Kale said, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. He scanned the trees, his golden eyes sharp, every muscle in his body coiled. The new, whole bond thrummed between them, a live wire of shared power. Aurora could feel his rage, his focus, but she could also feel his fear. Not for himself. For her. "I know," Aurora said. Her own voice was different, stronger. Her wolf was awake, a living, breathing presence under her skin, alert and watchful. "He's watching. He's waiting. He thinks he's a strategist," Kale growled. "He thinks he's smart." "He is smart," Aurora corrected him, her grip tightening on his hand. "He knew exactly how to break us 10 years ago. He set this trap perfectly. He's not just going to run." A slow, mocking clap echoed from the edge of the clearing. Lauren stepped out from the shadow of a large pine. He was alone. He was not wearing his beta leathers. He was dressed in the black armor of a rogue hunter. His blonde hair was perfect. His smile was smooth. "Bravo," Lauren called, his voice dripping with condescending poison. Truly a remarkable performance. The long-lost Luna returns, the vessel dies, and the two broken halves become one. "It's almost poetic." "Lauren," Kale said. "The name was a curse. It's over. Your rogues are dead. You're a traitor, and you will die as one." "Will I?" Lauren's smile widened. He looked unbothered. "You see, Kale, that's always been your problem. You think in terms of fights. Brawls. Who is strongest? You are all wolf." He tapped his temple. "I am all mind. You think this was the trap? This was just the stage." He was too calm. Far too calm. "Kale, no," Aurora whispered, pulling on his arm. What's wrong, my king?" Lauren taunted. "You have your mate. You have your full power. What could you possibly be afraid of?" Kale took a step, then another. He was walking into the clearing, pulling Aurora with him. "I'm not afraid of you, Lauren. I'm going to enjoy this." "No, Kale." Aurora hissed, trying to plant her feet. "He wants you to come to him. It's a trap." "He's right, my little healer," Lauren cooed. "Listen to her, Kale." "But you won't. Because I know you. I know you have to be the protector. The hero. You have to." Kale let go of Aurora's hand. He launched himself across the clearing. He didn't shift. It was a pure, human rage. He was going to tear Lauren apart with his bare hands. "Kale." "No." Aurora screamed. Lauren, he didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just smiled. And at the very last second he stepped aside. Kale, his momentum unstoppable, his target gone, he ran past Lauren. And he tripped. A thin, almost invisible wire. A silver wire stretched between two trees. Kale roared, but it wasn't a roar of rage. It was pain. As he hit the wire, it triggered the trap. It wasn't just a wire. Dozens of silver-tipped shards blades sprang up from the leaf-covered ground. He fell onto them. He landed hard, on his chest and stomach. "No," Aurora whispered. Kale pushed himself up, onto his knees. He looked down. His chest. His stomach. They were impaled. Half a dozen silver shards were buried deep in his torso. The problem with silver, Lauren said, his voice calm, is that it burns. He walked over to Kale, who was on his knees, trembling, trying to pull one of the shards out. But this silver, Lauren said, is special. He kicked Kale hard in the side. Kale fell over, gasping. It's coated, Lauren said, in wolfsbane. No, Aurora breathed. She ran. Kale. Lauren said. He raised a crossbow. It was aimed at Kale's head. Stay back, healer, Lauren commanded. Or he dies. Aurora, she froze. 10 feet away. Kale, he wasn't moving. He was dying. And she couldn't get to him. Chapter 17, The Unleashed Wolf. Lauren stood over Kale, the crossbow leveled, a perfect picture of triumph. This, he said, is where you fail, Kale. Not by my hand, but by hers. Aurora was frozen, her world shrunk to the space of 10 feet. Kale was dying. The man she had just found, the love she had just reclaimed, was bleeding out. And she could not move. What do you want? She whispered, her voice shaking, her hands raised. What do I want? Lauren laughed. I wanted a strong pack. I wanted an alpha who wasn't ruled by his emotions. Kale, he was never the same after you. He was a hollow king. A broken thing. I was fixing the pack. And then you came back. The poison. You're insane, Aurora breathed. I am logical, he snapped. And now, the logic is simple. You are going to watch. He aimed the crossbow. Not at Kale. At her. The bond, he whispered. It works both ways. Doesn't it? He knew. You die and he dies too. He smiled. Goodbye, Luna. He pulled the trigger. TWNG. The bolt, it was silver. It flew. Aurora, she didn't move. She couldn't. She closed her eyes. Nothing. She opened her eyes. Kale. He was in front of her. He had moved. He had rolled. He was on his knees. And the silver bolt was in his shoulder. He looked at her. His eyes, they were full of love. I won't let him hurt you again. He fell. Face forward. At her feet. Silence. Lauren, he laughed. How noble, he said. How predictable. He dropped the crossbow. Well, that saves me a bolt. He pulled a knife. Now, your turn. He walked toward her. Aurora, she looked down. At Kale. At the blood. At the silver. The bond. It was screaming. Pain. Loss. Agony. Her mate. He was dying. He was dead. No. No. N-O-O-O. A sound. It ripped out of her. It was not a scream. It was a howl. It was not a human sound. It was Alpha. Lauren, he stopped. His face, it was afraid. Aurora, she looked up. Her eyes. They were not brown. They were not silver. They were gold. Burning wolf gold. You touched him. Her voice. There were two voices. Hers and the wolf's. She shifted. Not into a wolf. But not human. Her nails grew. Into claws. Her teeth were sharpened. You hurt my mate. She moved. She was a blur. Lauren, he tried to raise the knife. She caught his wrist. SNP. He screamed. She hit him. He flew. He hit a tree. He fell. She was on him. She hit him. And hit him. And hit him. It was not healing. It was rage. It was power. It was uncontrolled. She was killing him. And a part of her was enjoying it. She raised her claws for the last time. Kale. A groan. It was soft. But she heard it. She froze. She looked at her hands. They were covered in blood. Lauren's blood. She looked at Lauren. He was broken. Unconscious. But alive. She gasped. She stumbled back. What had she done? She was a monster. Chapter 18. The Poison of the Bond. She scrambled back, falling, crawling away from Lauren's broken body. The monster, she was a monster. The golden, primal rage faded from her eyes, replaced by a cold, human horror. She looked at her hands, her claws her nails caked in Lauren's blood. She was shaking, her whole body convulsing. Kale. The single thought cut through her panic. She ran, stumbling, back to him. He was lying face down, exactly where he had fallen at her feet. The silver bolt was a black, ugly shadow in his shoulder. The silver shards were buried deep in his back, the wolfsbane-laced poison already blackening the skin around the wounds. "No, no, no," she whispered, her voice hysterical. She grabbed his shoulder to turn him over. "Kale. Kale, wake up." His body was limp. Dead weight. "No," she screamed. "I can heal you. I'm a healer." She frantically pushed him onto his back. His face was pale, his lips blue. But he was breathing. Barely. A shallow, hitched gasp. "Okay," she cried, relief and panic warring within her. "Okay. I can fix this. I can fix this." She placed her hands on his chest, over the deep wounds. She closed her eyes. She reached for the silver light, the power that had saved Celine, the power that had mended his first wound at the cabin. She reached and nothing. There was nothing. "No," she whispered. "Come on. Please." She pushed. She strained. She tried to summon the cool, moon-bright energy. But all she felt was the other thing. The hot, dark, golden rage of the wolf. The power she had just used to nearly kill Lauren. It was there, boiling under her skin, but it was not healing. It was fury. It was power. It was destruction. "No, I don't want that," she sobbed. I want to heal him." But the silver light was gone. It was as if her rage, her wolf's primal, possessive fury had burned it away. Like a fire scorching a garden, her violence had destroyed her healing. She was a monster, just as she had feared. "Please," she begged, pressing her bloody hands to his wounds, as if her own blood could save him. "Kale, please don't leave me. I just found you. Please." He groaned, a low, agonizing sound. The poison, the silver, it was burning him from the inside out. The bond was a conduit, pouring his agony directly into her. She could feel the poison in her own veins. She could feel his heart slowing. It was her fault. All of it. Because she had returned, Celine was dead. Because she had bonded with him, Lauren had sprung his trap. Because she had lost control, her healing was gone. She was the poison. Her love. Her bond. Her wolf. It was the source of all this pain. Lauren had called her a harlot. He had called her a poison. He was right. As long as she was here, as long as this bond was active, she would be his weakness. She was the target. She was the reason he was dying. If she left. The thought was a new, colder agony. The bond would kill them both if they were separated. That's what he had said. But they were dying anyway. He was dying because of her. What if he was wrong? What if the bonded it would hurt, but if she was gone, maybe the poison would fade. Maybe if she took the wolf, the target, away, Lauren would stop. And Kale could live. It was a desperate, broken, illogical hope. But it was the only hope she had. She looked at his face, so pale. She couldn't leave him. But she had to. She kissed him. His lips. They were cold. "I love you," she whispered, her tears falling on his still face. I'm so sorry." She stood up. She turned away from him. She ran. She ran into the woods. She left him to die alone. Or to live without her. She didn't know which was worse. Chapter 19. The Pull of the Chain. Aurora ran. She ran with all the strength in her body, fueled by a decade of pain and a new, sharp, all-consuming terror. She scrambled through the underbrush, branches tearing at her clothes, her face. She did not care. She was a poison. A monster. She had lost control, and in her rage, she had lost her healing. She was the one who had gotten Kale killed. She had to leave. She was the target. If she was gone, the threat would be gone. This was the lie she told herself. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs felt like lead. She collapsed, falling to her knees in a patch of wet leaves, miles from the cottage. She was finally safe. And in the silence, she felt it. The bond. It was not a gentle connection. It was a thick, heavy chain, and it was being pulled taut. She cried out, clutching her chest. It was a physical, tearing agony. It was not just her own pain, it was his. She felt cold. So cold. She felt a spreading numbness. He was dying. She was feeling him die. Her logic, her desperate, broken plan, shattered. Leaving him was not saving him. It was abandoning him. The bond was still there. "You're killing us both," a voice whispered in her head. Was it her wolf? Or was it Kale? The chain pulled tighter, a cold, sickening yank in her soul. "He's fading." "No," she whispered. She had been so stupid. Lauren's lie, that she was the poison, had been his final, most perfect attack. He had made her defeat herself. He had made her run. Her place was not in the woods, hiding. Her place was with him. She looked at her hands, still stained with Lauren's blood. She was a monster. Fine. So be it. If she was a monster, she would be his monster. She tried to summon the silver light one last time. Nothing. Just the hot, golden, furious power that had nearly beaten Lauren to death. It coiled in her stomach, angry, possessive, and furious that she was running away from its mate. She had no healing. All she had was this rage. And Kale was dying. She stood up. "I'm coming," she whispered. She turned and ran back, faster than she had ever run in her life, racing the cold, pulling agony of the bond. She was no longer running from him. She was running for him. Chapter 20. The Choice. She burst back into the clearing. It was quiet. Too quiet. Lauren was gone. No. He was stirring. He was 10 feet from where she had left him, crawling, dragging his broken arm, leaving a smear of blood on the leaves. He was trying to get to the crossbow. He saw her. "You," he coughed, spitting blood. "You stupid bitch. You came back." He was trying to get to his feet. And Kale was still. Too still. He had not moved. He was lying on his back, the silver bolt in his shoulder, the shards in his chest. His skin was gray. "You," Lauren laughed, a wet, choking sound. "You came back to watch him die." Aurora was frozen. Kale was dying. Lauren was getting his weapon. If she ran to Kale, Lauren would shoot her. He would if she fought Lauren. Kale would. The choice was impossible. Lauren, he grabbed the crossbow. He fumbled it. His broken arm. He couldn't load it. He threw it down. He pulled a knife. I will kill you both." He staggered toward her. This was it. Aurora, she looked at Kale. She looked at Lauren. She chose. She did not run to Kale. She ran at Lauren. You hurt him." The golden light had exploded from her. But it wasn't rage. It was control. She didn't touch him. She pushed. With her power. The same power she had used on the rogues. A concussive blast. It hit Lauren. In the chest. He flew. Backward. He slammed into a tree. He slid down. He was out. Cold. Aurora, she didn't look back. She ran to Kale. "I'm here," she whispered, falling to her knees beside him. "I'm here." "I'm so sorry." He didn't answer. His eyes were closed. Chapter 21. The Golden Heart. She put her hands on his chest, over the silver shards. The skin, it was so cold. The black poison, it had spread. "Kale," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm here." "I'm sorry. I was so stupid. Please don't leave me. I just found you." She closed her eyes. She reached for the silver light. Nothing. It was gone. Just the hot, golden power. "No," she sobbed. "I can't. I'm not a healer. Not anymore." Then a voice. It was a whisper. "Then be my Luna." Kale's eyes. They were open. Just a slit. "Kale." It hurts," he gasped. "I know. I can't heal you. The light, it's gone." "No," he whispered. "The silver, it's cold. The wolf's bane, it's cold. I need." He looked at her hands. Fire. He wanted the golden power. But Kale's kiss was a raw claiming, a desperate affirmation of life in the face of death. Aurora met his intensity, her hands tangling in his hair, her tears of grief and terror turning into tears of relief. The bond between them was no longer a painful chain. It was a roaring, golden river of shared power, and it sang in her blood. He pulled back, his gold eyes blazing with a new, clear light. He looked at his own hands, then at his chest. Where the silver shards had been, there were now only fresh, pink, seared shut scars. The wolf's bane was gone. The silver was gone. Her golden fire had not just healed him, it had reforged him. How he breathed, his voice raw. Aurora started, but a slow, mocking clap echoed from the edge of the clearing. Lauren. He was leaning against a tree, his face a mask of pale, furious disbelief. His arm was clearly broken, hanging at an odd angle, and he was breathing heavily, but he was alive. Impossible, Lauren whispered, his voice shaking with rage, not fear. The wolfsbane, it should have liquefied your heart. It should have killed you. You miscalculated, Lauren, Cale growled. He got to his feet, using Aurora's shoulder for support. He was weak, but he was standing. It doesn't matter, Lauren sneered, his confidence returning. He whistled a long, low sound. He's weak. She's a one-trick healer. And I am a strategist. For more shapes detached from the shadows. These were not the thin, desperate rogues from before. These were pack. They were large, wearing leather armor, their eyes cold. Lauren's personal guard. His last resort. You corrupted his own guard? Aurora whispered, horrified. Loyalty is a currency, Lauren said. And I paid them better. Kill them. Kill the alpha first. The 4 armored wolves charged. This was it. The final showdown. The blood moon, high overhead, cast a sick, red light on the clearing. Cale looked at Aurora. Stay behind me. No, she said, her voice calm and absolute. He smiled. Then, beside me. Cale did not shift. He exploded into his true form. He was the massive black alpha wolf, a shadow of fangs and death, and he met the first 2 guards in a clash of sound and fury. But this time Aurora did not hide. The other 2 guards, seeing her as the weaker target, split off and charged her. She did not run. She did not cower. She stood her ground, and her wolf, her new, whole, golden wolf rose to the surface. She didn't shift. She ignited. The golden power that had healed Cale now wreathed her, a visible, shimmering aura of fire. Her eyes burned gold. The first guard lunged. Aurora didn't even lift her hand. She just pushed with her mind. A concussive, invisible blast of pure golden energy hit the guard in midair. It was not a silver healing light. It was a hammer. The wolf yelped, a sound that was cut off as he flew backward and slammed into a tree, his armor cracking. The second guard skidded to a halt, terror in his eyes. She was not a healer. She was not a monster. She was Luna. Across the clearing, Cale was a blur of black fur, fighting his own battle, but he was still weak. One of the guards got past his defense, his claws raking Cale's flank. Cale roared in pain. Aurora turned. She saw Cale and she saw the rogue who had hurt him. Her rage was cold now. It was focused. She pointed to her hand. You, she commanded, her voice echoing with 2 tones, hers and the wolf's. Stop. A beam of golden light shot from her hand and wrapped around the wolf's leg. It was not fire, it was solid. Like a manacle. The wolf tripped. It fell. And Cale, his mate, was on him in an instant. It was over. Cale, in his wolf form, and Aurora, in her human goddess form, turned as one. They faced Lauren. He was alone. No, he whispered, his strategy, his logic, his entire world shattering. She is my Luna, Kolev's voice rumbled, a deep growl, even from the wolf. You were right, Lauren, Aurora said, her voice clear, her golden aura lighting the clearing. He was broken. We both were. Cale, the wolf, padded up to stand beside her, his massive head next to her hip. You just forgot, she said, her voice softening as she placed her hand on her mate's head, what happens when you put the 2 halves back together. Lauren, he tried to run. Cale, he tackled him. It was fast. It was brutal. It was final. The blood moon watched. And it was over. Chapter 23. The Mark of the Moon. The clearing was silent. The red light of the blood moon faded, softening back into the clean, white light of a normal full moon. It shone down on the carnage. Lauren was dead. His guards were dead. Cale shifted. He was human. He was naked, his body a map of old scars and new wounds, his side bleeding from the guard's claws. He was covered in blood and dirt. He looked at her. Aurora's golden aura, it faded. It sank back under her skin, leaving her just Aurora. She looked at Lauren's body, and the violence of it all hit her. She trembled. Kale started. His voice was raw. He didn't know what to say. Thank you was too small. I love you was too much, or was it? Aurora, she walked to him. She looked at the new gash on his side. You're bleeding, she whispered. She reached out her hand. But she hesitated. I can't, she whispered. I don't know how. The silver light, it's not gone, Kale said. He took her hand. He pressed it to his wound. You are not just the moon. You are also the sun. He smiled. A small, tired smile. Heal me, my Luna. She closed her eyes. She reached. And both powers answered. A cool silver light and a warm golden light. They twined together. Like two vines. The wound, it stitched itself shut. It left no scar. Oh, she whispered. See, he said. They stood there. In the moonlight. Just breathing. You are my Luna, he said, his voice firm. In every way. Before the goddess. The bond, it was strong. But it was incomplete. That first mark. The partial mark. It was a scar. A reminder of pain. And you are my alpha, she whispered, her voice shaking but strong. He lowered his head. To her neck. He breathed in her scent. May I, he asked. Yes, she breathed, tilting her head. He marked her. It was not painful. It was on fire. It was light. The golden power and the silver power flared in both of them. A blinding flash. The bond is locked. It was no longer a chain. It was their blood. When the light faded, she looked at him. He was her alpha. Your turn, she whispered. And for the first time in their pack's history, the Luna marked the alpha. She bit his shoulder, over his heart. Sealing the bond. Making them truly equal. Chapter 24. The Golden Dawn. Weeks later, the sun rose over the mountains. It streamed in, not through the open, broken door of a hunter's trap, but through a clean, open window. The cabin was no longer a prison. It was home. The rough furs were still on the floor, but the small bed was gone. In its place was a large, warm bed, covered in soft linens and thick, warm blankets. Aurora, she woke up. She was tangled in the linens. With him. Kale, he was not on the floor. He was in bed. He was watching her. The haunted, cold look was gone. His eyes. They were just warm. He smiled. It was the old smile. The one she remembered. But better. Deeper. Good morning, my Luna, he whispered, his voice rough with sleep. Good morning, my alpha, she replied, her voice soft. They stayed there. For a moment. Just being. What about the council? She asked, a small thread of her old fear. The ones who called me. Kale's smile widened. He brushed the hair from her face. The council, he said, his voice now full of easy authority, has been reformed. They met the new Golden Luna. He chuckled. They are believers now. He explained. That her power. Not just the silver healing. But the golden fire. It was a legend. Made real. She was not just a healer. She was the healer. The Alpha Queen. Aurora, she was no longer afraid. Of her wolf. Of her power. Of her love. She stood on the porch, later that day. Looking at the mountains. She was not the girl from the apothecary. She was not the broken harlot. She was a queen. Kale, he came up behind her. He wrapped his arms around her waist. He pressed his face into her hair. The bond. It was a quiet, steady warmth. A fireplace, not a bonfire. I love you, he whispered. I loved you then. I love you now. I am so sorry for the 10 years we lost. We didn't lose them, she said, turning in his arms to face him. She placed her hand over his heart. Over her mark. They made us this. You were right. I'm not just a healer. And you're not just a wolf. She smiled. We're ours. He kissed her. Not a desperate, post-battle kiss. But a slow, deep, promising kiss. The two broken souls. Reforged by fire and love. Finally whole.